Hello viewers, welcome to City Report. Today we are gonna explore state Hawaii. Let's get started. Hawaii is a US state in the western United States in the Pacific Ocean about 2000 miles from the US mainland. It is the only state outside North America, the only state comprised entirely of islands, and the only state in the tropics. Hawaii is also one of the few US states to have once been an independent nation. Comprises nearly the entire Hawaiian archipelago, 137 volcanic islands spanning 1,500 miles that are physiographically and ethnologically part of the Polynesian subregion of Oceania. The state's ocean coastline is consequently the fourth longest in the US, at about 750 miles. The uninhabited northwestern Hawaiian Islands make up most of the Papahanaumokuakea Marine National Monument, the nation's largest protected area and the third largest in the world. Settled by the Polynesians sometime between 124 and 1120, Hawaii was home to numerous independent chiefdoms. The British explorer James Cook was the first known non-Polynesian to arrive at the archipelago in 1778. Early British influence is reflected in the state flag's design. An influx of European and American explorers, traders, and whalers arrived shortly thereafter, introducing diseases that decimated the once isolated indigenous community. Hawaii became a unified, internationally recognized kingdom in 1810, remaining independent until Western businessmen overthrew the monarchy in 1893. This led to annexation by the US in 1898. As a strategically valuable US territory, Hawaii was attacked by Japan on December 7, 1941, which brought it global and historical significance and contributed to America's decisive entry into World War II. Hawaii is the most recent state to join the Union on August 21, 1959. In 1993, the US government formally apologized for its role in the overthrow of Hawaii's government, which spurred the Hawaiian sovereignty movement. There are 8 main Hawaii islands. 7 are inhabited, but only 6 are open to tourists and locals. Niihau is privately managed by brothers Bruce and Keith Robinson. Access is restricted to those who have their permission. This island is also home to native Hawaiians. Access to uninhabited Kaho'olawe Island is also restricted, and anyone who enters without permission will be arrested. This island may also be dangerous since it was military base during the World War and could still have unexploded ordnances. The Hawaiian Islands were formed by volcanic activity initiated at an undersea magma source called the Hawaii Hotspot. The process is continuing to build islands. The tectonic plate beneath much of the Pacific Ocean continually moves northwest and the hotspot remains stationary, slowly creating new volcanoes. Because of the hotspot's location, all currently active land volcanoes are located on the southern half of Hawaii Island. The newest volcano, Loihi Seamount, is located south of the coast of Hawaii Island. Let's talk about top 10 places you must visit in Hawaii. Number 10. Mauna Kea. Mauna Kea is a dormant volcano on the island of Hawaii. Its peak is 4,207.3 meters above sea level, making it the highest point in the state of Hawaii and second highest peak of an island on Earth. It is also the world's tallest mountain at 10.2 kilometers from base to peak, though a large part of this is underwater, thus leaving its peak below that of Everest. It is about 1 million years old and has thus passed the most active shield stage of life hundreds of thousands of years ago. In its current post-shield state, its lava is more viscous, resulting in a steeper profile. Late volcanism has also given it a much rougher appearance than its neighboring volcanoes due to construction of cinder cones, decentralization of its rift zones, glaciation on its peak, and weathering by the prevailing trade winds. Mauna Kea last erupted 6,000 to 4,000 years ago and is now considered dormant. The peak is about 125 feet higher than Mauna Loa, its more massive neighbor. In Hawaiian region, the peaks of the island of Hawaii are sacred. An ancient law allowed only high-ranking alii to visit its peak. Ancient Hawaiians living on the slopes of Mauna Kea relied on its extensive forests for food and quarried the dense volcano glacial basalts on its flanks for tool production. When Europeans arrived in the late 18th century, settlers introduced cattle, sheep, and game animals, many of which became feral and began to damage the volcano's ecological balance. Mauna Kea can be ecologically divided into three sections: an alpine climate at its summit, a Saphora chrysophila, Mayapuram, San Vicente, or Mamane Nayo forest on its flanks, and an Acaciacoa metrocidrus polymorpha. Mauna Kea is one of 5 volcanoes that form the island of Hawaii, the largest and youngest island of the Hawaiian Emperor Seamount chain. Of these 5 hotspot volcanoes, Mauna Kea is the fourth oldest and fourth most active. It began as a pre-shield volcano driven by the Hawaii hotspot around 1 million years ago and became exceptionally active during its shield stage until 50,000 years ago. Mauna Kea entered its quieter post-shield stage 250,000 to 200,000 years ago and is currently dormant. Mauna Kea does not have a visible summit caldera but contains a number of small cinder and pumice cones near its summit.
Number 9. Waipio Valley. Waipio Valley is a valley located in the Hamakua district of the Big Island of Hawaii. Waipio means curved water in the Hawaii language. The valley was the capital and permanent residence of many early Hawaiian alii, chiefs, kings up until the time of King Yumi. This was a place celebrated for its nioi tree, known as the Nioi Velao Pakalena, the burning Nioi of Pakalena. It was the location of the ancient grass place of the ancient kings of Hawaii, with the Nioi stands. Kahekili II king of Maui raided Waipio in the 18th century and burned the 4 sacred trees to the ground. The first chief who had a court in the valley was called Kahaimoilia. The valley floor at sea level is almost 2,000 feet below the surrounding terrain. A steep road leads down into the valley from a lookout point located on the top of the southern wall of the valley. The road rises 800 feet in 0.6 miles at a 25% average grade, with steeper grades in sections. This is a paved public road, but it is open only to 4-wheel drive vehicles. It is the steepest road of its length in the United States. The shoreline in the valley is a black sand beach popular with surfers. A few taro farms are located in the valley. Several large waterfalls fall into the valley to feed the river, which flows from the foot of the largest fall at the back of the valley out to the ocean. A foot trail called Waimanu or Muliwai Trail leads down a steep path to the Waimanu Valley, which is only accessible by the trail or by a boat. The trail is accessible to hikers who need a Waimanu campaign permit from the state unless they do the trek as a strenuous day hike. At the upper end of the valley, Waimanu Gap at 2,089 feet elevation leads to the south end of Waimanu Valley. The valley was the site of the final scene in the 1995 sci-fi film Waterworld, at which the main characters found dry land. This valley is one of the most beautiful and secluded places to go to for a hike on the Big Island. These hikes, however, are not easy. If you feel like strengthening your legs, you can try either of the following 2 hikes. The hike down into Waipio Valley is one of our top 5 short hikes in Hawaii.
Number 8. Hana Road. The Hana Highway, colloquially referred to as the Road to Hana, is a 64.4-mile long stretch of Hawaii routes 36 and 360, which connects Kahului to the town of Hana in East Maui. To the east of Kalepa Bridge, the highway continues to Kipahulu as Hawaii Route 31, the Pilani Highway. Although Hana is only about 52 miles from Kahului, an uninterrupted car trip takes about 2.5 hours to drive. Since the highway is very widely narrow and passes over 59 bridges, of which 46 are only 1 lane wide. There are approximately 620 curves along Route 360 from just east of Kahului to Hana, almost all of it through lush tropical rainforest. Many of the concrete and steel bridges date back to 1910, and all but one are still in use. That one bridge, badly damaged by erosion, has been replaced by a portable steel acro bridge erected by the United States Army Corps of Engineers.
In August 2000, the highway was designated as the Hana Millennium Legacy Trail by President Bill Clinton, with the trail start designated in Pia. The Hana Highway was listed on the National Register of Historic Places on June 15, 2001. Hana Highway consists of Hawaii routes 36 and 360. Route 36 is a mixture of urban street divided highway and high-speed rural highway. Route 360 is a narrow and winding mountain trip and winding mountain road. Mileposts in tourist guides refer to mile makers on Route 360, not Route 36. Route 36 begins in Kahului and the junction of routes 32 and 311, and the road named Hana Highway begins one block east. The highway runs east as a 4-lane divided highway, intersecting with Route 380, 3800, which serve Kahului Airport to the north and connect to Mahalaya and West Maui to the south. A short distance east, it intersects Route 37, which serves Haleakala to the south. East of this point, the highway becomes a 2-lane rural highway passing through Pia and Hiku. Highway 36 ends at Route 365 east of Haiku, while the Hana Highway continues as Route 360. Highway 360 is a narrow, winding, and low-speed mountain highway. Number 7. Kona Coffee Living History Farm. Kona Coffee Living History Farm is located on the Daisaku Uchida Coffee Farm in the Kona district on the Big Island of Hawaii. The 5.5-acre historic Kona Coffee Farm was established in 1900. The open-air agriculture museum depicts the daily lives of early Japanese immigrants to Hawaii during the period of 1920 to 1945. It is located at the area now known as Captain Cook, but the traditional land division known as Keala Kikwa. The farm was owned by Daisaku Uchida, who came to Hawaii from southern Japan at the age of 19 on September 27, 1906. After a 3-year sugar contract at Lihui Plantation on Kauai, Daisaku came to the Kona district between 1868 and 1924. More than 140,000 Japanese workers came to Hawaii with labor contracts at sugarcane plantation. Many, like Uchida, decided to leave the plantations and start their own family businesses when their contract expired. In 1912, Daisaku married his cousin Shima Marua. They moved to the farm in 1913, expanding it and the house in 1925. The land was owned by the Greenwell family. Henry Nicholas Greenwell had been in the coffee trading business in the area since the 1870s. The Uchida family lived here until Shima died at the age of 73 in 1966 and Daisaku in 1986 at the age of 99. Their children were born in the original house and 3 in the new one after 1925. The eldest son, Masao Uchida, also farmed the property until he and his wife, Masako, retired to Honolulu in 1994. The long-term leasehold and finally run out and the land was scheduled to be redeveloped into a residential subdivision. Since the farm had never been modernized, it was instead donated to the Kona Historical Society by Sherwood Greenwell. The Living History Museum offers self-guided tours that include the coffee orchard, farmhouse, and coffee mill. A kiosk is open to visitors and a full tour by the costumed interpreters from the Kona Historical Society is available at limited times. A fee is charged. State Registry of Historic Places listed the farm as Site 1047 7509 on April 16, 1994. Number 6. Volcanoes National Park. Hawaii Volcanoes National Park is an American national park located in US state of Hawaii on the island of Hawaii. The park encompasses 2 active volcanoes, Kilauea, one of the world's most active volcanoes, and Mauna Loa, the world's most massive shield volcano. The park provides scientists with insight into the development of the Hawaii Islands and access for studies of volcanism. For visitors, the park offers dramatic volcanic landscapes, glimpses of rare flora and fauna, and a view into the traditional Hawaiian culture connected to these landscapes. The park was originally established on August 1, 1916 as Hawaii National Park, which was then split into this park and Haleakala National Park.
In recognition of its outstanding natural values, Hawaii Volcanoes National Park was designated as an international biosphere reserve in 1980 and a World Heritage Site in 1987. In 2012, the park was depicted on the 14th quarter of the America, the Beautiful Quarters series. On May 11, 2018, the park was closed to the public in the Volcano Summit area, including the visitor center and park headquarters, due to explosions and toxic ash clouds from Helima Umayu, as well as earthquakes and road damage. Portions of the park, including the visitor center, reopened to the public on September 22, 2018. As of 2020, most of the park is open. However, some road segments and trails, as well as the Jaeger Museum of the Hawaiian Volcano Observatory, remain closed to visitors. Eruptive activity, ground collapses, and explosions in the park ceased in early August of 2018, and the Lulin eruptive activity at Kilauea continued until an eruption on December 20, 2020 at the Helima Umayu crater. The purpose of Hawaii Volcanoes National Park is to protect, study, and provide access to Kilauea and Mauna Loa, two of the world's most active volcanoes, and perpetuate endemic Hawaiian ecosystems and the traditional Hawaiian culture connected to these landscapes. The park includes 323,431 acres of land. Over half of the park, 130,790 acres, was designated the Hawaiian Volcanoes Wilderness Area in 1978, providing. Number 5. Hanauma Bay. Hanauma is a marine embayment formed within a tuff ring and located along the southeast coast of the island of Oahu in the Hawaii Kai neighborhood of East Honolulu in the Hawaiian Islands. Hanauma is one of the most popular tourist destinations on the island and has suffered somewhat from overuse. At one time, this popular tourist destination accommodated over 3 million visitors per year. In 1956, dynamite was used to clear portions of the reef to make room for telephone cables linking Hawaii to the west coast of the US. The prefix Hana means bay in the Hawaiian language. The usual addition of bay in its name is thus redundant. There are two etymological interpretations of the second part of its name. One interpretation derives it from the Hawaiian word for curve, referring to either the shape of the feature or to the shape of the indigenous canoes that were launched there. Another stems from the indigenous hand wrestling game known as Yuma. Hanauma is both a nature preserve and a marine life conservation district, the first of several established in the state of Hawaii. Reflecting changes in attitude, its name has changed over time from Hanauma Bay Beach Park to Hanauma Bay Nature Preserve. Visitors are required by law to refrain from mistreating marine animals or from touching, walking, or otherwise having contact with coral heads, which appear much like large rocks on the ocean floor here, mostly seaward of the shallow, fringing reef of the beach. It is always recommended to avoid contacting coral or marine rocks, as cuts to the skin can result, and neglecting such wounds may bring medical problems. About 400 species of fish are known to inhabit the bay. Hanauma Bay is known for its abundance of green sea turtles, Calonia medes, known as honu. Hanauma is a nursery ground for the immature turtles, which have their nesting grounds at French frigate shoals. It is also known for its abundance of parrotfish. Coral bleaching due to global warming has affected the coral reefs in Hanauma. In 2014 and 2015, 47% of the corals at Hanauma Bay Nature Preserve suffered from coral bleaching. Close to 10% of the corals in the nature preserve died. The Hawaiian Islands are a group of volcanoes that have risen up over a hotspot, which is a section of the Earth's surface that has exhibited volcanism for an extended period of time. Number 4. USS Arizona Memorial. The USS Arizona Memorial at Pearl Harbor in Honolulu, Hawaii, marks the resting place of 1,102 of the 1,177 sailors and Marines killed on USS Arizona during the attack of Pearl Harbor on December 7, 1941, and commemorates the events of the day. The attack on Pearl Harbor led to the United States' involvement in World War II. The memorial, built in 1962, is visited by more than 2 million people annually. Accessible only by boat, it straddles the sunken hull of the battleship without touching it. Historical information about the attack, shuttle boats to and from the memorial, and general visitor services are available at the associated USS Arizona Memorial Visitor Center, which opened in 1980 and is operated by the National Park Service. The battleship's sunken remains were declared a National Historic Landmark on May 5, 1989. The USS Arizona Memorial is one of several sites in Hawaii that are part of the Pearl Harbor National Memorial. During the end of World War II, Arizona's wrecked superstructure was removed and efforts began to erect a memorial at the remaining submerged hull. Robert Ripley of Ripley's Believe It or Not fame visited Pearl Harbor in 1942. 6 years later, in 1948, he did a radio broadcast from Pearl Harbor. Following that broadcast, with the help of his longtime friend, Doe Storer, he got in contact with the Department of the Navy. He wrote letters to Rear Admiral J.J. Manning of the Bureau of Yards and Docks regarding his desire for a permanent memorial. Ripley's original idea for a memorial was disregarded due to the cost. The Navy continued with the idea of creating a memorial. The Pacific War Memorial Commission was created in 1949 to build a permanent memorial in Hawaii. Admiral Arthur W. Redford, commander of the Pacific Fleet, attached a flagpole to the mainmast of the Arizona in 1950 and began a tradition of hosting and lowering the flag. In that same year, a temporary memorial was built above the remaining portion of the deckhouse. Redford requested funds for a national memorial in 1951 and 1952. Number 3. Pearl Harbor. Pearl Harbor is an American lagoon harbor on the island of Oahu, Hawaii, west of Honolulu. It has been long visited by the naval fleet of the United States before it was acquired from the Hawaiian Kingdom by the US with the signing of the Reciprocity Treaty of 1875. Much of the harbor and surrounding lands are now a United States Navy deep-water naval base. It is also the headquarters of the United States Pacific Fleet. The US government first obtained exclusive use of the inlet and the right to maintain a repair and coaling station for ships here in 1887. The surprise attack by the Imperial Japanese Navy on December 7, 1941 led the United States to declare war on the Empire of Japan, making the attack on Pearl Harbor the immediate cause of the United States' entry into World War II. Pearl Harbor was originally an extensive, shallow embayment called Waiamumi, meaning water of pearl, or Pu'uloa, meaning long hill, by the Hawaiians. Pu'uloa was regarded as the home of the shark goddess Ka'ahupahua and her brother or son Kahiuka in Hawaiian legends. According to tradition, Keaunui, the head of the powerful Iwa chiefs, is credited with cutting a navigable channel near the present Pu'ulau salt works, by which he made the estuary known as Pearl River accessible to navigation, making due allowance for legendary amplification. The estuary already had an outlet for its water where the present gap is, but Keaunui is typically given the credit for widening and deepening it. During the early 19th century, Pearl Harbor was not used for large ships due to its shallow entrance. The United States' interest in the Hawaiian Islands grew as a result of its whaling, shipping and trading activity in the Pacific. As early as 1820, an agent of the United States for Commerce and Seamen was appointed to look after American business in the port of Honolulu. These commercial ties to the American continent were accompanied by the work of the American Board of Commissaries for Foreign Missions. Number 2. Diamond Head State Monument. Diamond Head is a volcanic cone on the Hawaiian island of Oahu and is the most popular Hawaii state park. Hawaiians call it Li'ahi, bro of the tuna, in reference to the formation's ridgeline, which resembles the tuna fish's dorsal fin. The British soldiers who visited the area in the 19th century, though that the sparkling calcite crystals on the neighboring beach were diamonds. Diamond Head offers stunning view of the Pacific Ocean and Honolulu that you can hike to via a trail that takes you to the edge of the 300,000 years old crater. Diamond Head is part of the Ko'olau range of volcanoes that began erupting below sea level over 2.6 million years ago. A single eruption around 300,000 years ago created the crater. The crater encompasses 350 acres. The crater is much larger than its rim as it was formed explosively. This type of formation is known as a tuff cone. Diamond Head stands at an elevation of 762 feet above sea level when measured from the crater floor. The Diamond Head mountain towers to 560 feet. Diamond Head is monogenetic, which means eruption occurs only once. The last eruption of the volcanic tuff cone was likely 150,000 to 202,000 years ago. It has remained dormant since the US government purchased the Diamond Head crater and some of the surrounding areas in 1905 and developed around 720 acres into Fort Ruger as a way to strengthen the country's coast artillery defense. It was Hawaii's first US military reservation. Batteries and guns were installed on the slopes of the crater and inside it. Post-World War II, the facilities were upgraded, including the addition of anti-aircraft batteries to the crater's rim. Today, some of these installations remain. They include Battery 407, which was originally envisioned to mount guns salvaged from the USS Arizona. Birkheimer Tunnel, a bunker-style battery, a National Guard Emergency Operations Center, and the Hawaii State Civil Defense Headquarters. Number 1. Waikiki Beach. Waikiki, also known as Waikiki Beach, is a neighborhood of Honolulu on the south shore of the island of Oahu in the US state of Hawaii. Waikiki is most famous for Waikiki Beach, which is one of 6 beaches in the district, along with Queens Beach, Kuhio Beach, Grace Beach, Fort de Rusi Beach, and Kahanamoku Beach. Waikiki Beach is almost entirely man-made. Waikiki is home to public places including Kapi'olani Park, Fort de Rusi, Kahanamoku Lagoon, Kuhio Beach Park, and Alawai Harbor. Waikiki was the first capital of the Kingdom of Hawaii from 1795 to 1796. The area was a retreat for Hawaiian royalty in the 1800s who enjoyed surfing there on early forms of longboards. A few small hotels opened in the 1880s. In 1893, Greek-American George Lycurgus leased the guest house of Alan Herbert and renamed it in the Sans Souci, French for without worries, creating one of the first beach resorts. Later that year, Robert Louis Stevenson stayed at the resort. Subsequently, it became a popular destination for mainland tourists. The area at coordinates is still called Sans Souci Beach. Waikiki has had erosion problems since the late 1800s because hotels and homes were built too close to the natural shoreline, while seawalls and other structures blocked the natural ebb and became filled with large resort hotels, such as the Hilton Hawaiian Village, Halekulani, the Hyatt Regency Waikiki, Marriott Waikiki, Sheraton Waikiki. This complemented historic hotels dating back to the early 20th century, such as the Moana Surfrider Hotel and the Royal Hawaiian Hotel. The beach hosts many events, including surf competitions, outdoor performances, hula dancing, and outrigger canoe races. The many amenities, shops, and hotels enable Waikiki to generate approximately 42% of Hawaii's visitor revenue. In the early 1900s, Waikiki was home to many wetlands, which were believed to harbor disease-carrying mosquitoes. To get rid of the mosquitoes, islanders created the Alawai Canal. The canal, originally known as the Waikiki Drainage Canal, was created by a Hawaiian dredging company run by Walter F. Dillingham. This was all about state Hawaii. Hope you liked the video. Don't forget to subscribe for more videos like this. Do share with your friends and family. Thanks for watching.